Okay, let's get this meeting started. What do you kids think we should do to stop Man-Bear Pig?
Well, hello everyone. Is this working? Yep. Okay. And welcome to this CIS roundtable discussion on climate change policy. Thanks. My name is John Humphreys. I'm a research fellow here with the Centre for Independent Studies. None of us are scientists. We're all economists. So just to be very clear about this, this is not a discussion of climate change science. This is a discussion of climate change policy. The science debate may well be very important, but it is not sufficient. What we need now is greater attention to the different sorts of climate change policies that Australia can be looking at. The timeline of the climate change debate in Australia has been somewhat curious. Over the last year, we've seen the Garnaut report calling for a trading system, a discussion green paper outlining a trading system, Treasury costings of a trading system, and then a white paper giving the details of a trading system. And now last week the government has decided to ask the question of whether we should even have a trading system. This is finally the right question. It has been a point of a bit of frustration for some economists and policymakers that the government has been rushing towards the carbon pollution reduction scheme before we have had an open, public and robust debate about the different options that exist. So let's be clear about this. Climate change is an important political issue. And politicians are responding, as they do, to important issues of the day by rushing to introduce a number of schemes to add to the many schemes that already exist on this issue. But there is an important difference between having good intentions and introducing good policy. If I ever get into one of those books of interesting quotes, I hope it'll be for the quote that poor people can't eat good intentions. And I think it's important that we, before rushing into things, have a bit more of a calm, drawn-out debate on this. There has, of course, been some discussion. Yesterday, Dr. Ron Ben-David, who was the head of the Secretariat for the Garnaut Review, emailed me to point out that the Garnaut report did give proper consideration to the policy debate, and he, of course, is correct. However, this debate hasn't yet, it seems, extended into the political or public domain, but perhaps this is now changing. As I mentioned, last week Wayne Swan announced an inquiry into whether there is something better than a trading system. The loud answer from many scientists and economists from across the political spectrum is yes, and many have suggested a carbon tax. Some of the most prominent climate change commentators, including NASA scientist James Hansen and former Vice President of America Al Gore, have suggested that a carbon tax is a better approach than a trading system.
The young people and nature don't have that much influence. I try to get the attention of the people who could solve the problem, and that's the captains of industry. The CEOs of the top energy companies like ExxonMobil and Peabody Coal, they're smart enough to know what the actual situation is. The scientific story is clear. If you ask the National Academy of Sciences, there are statements by the American Geophysical Union and the American Meteorological Society, which are clear and inconsistent with the small number of contrarians who these fossil fuel companies continue to put forth and confuse the public debate so that the public doesn't know for sure whether we understand the cause of global warming. If they continue to do that, they are guilty of crimes against humanity and nature. If they continue to do that, they are guilty of crimes against humanity and nature. If they continue to do that, they are guilty of crimes against humanity and nature.
They are joined by economists such as the free market Nobel laureate Gary Becker and professor at Harvard Gregory Mankiw in recognizing that tax has virtues over a trading system. And we have the curious instance of left-leaning groups such as the Sierra Club, Earth Policy Institute and the Australia Institute finding a coincidence of interest with free market-leaning groups such as the American Enterprise Institute, the New Zealand Business Roundtable, and myself at the Centre for Independent Studies. Even the CEOs of Duke Energy and ExxonMobil have come out in support of the carbon tax.
Trying to get the attention of the people who could solve the problem, and that's the captains of industry. Fossil fuel companies continue to put forth and confuse the public debate. If they continue to do that, they are guilty of crimes against humanity and nature.
Even the CEOs of Duke Energy and ExxonMobil have come out in support of a carbon tax.
Fossil fuel companies continue to put forth and confuse the public debate. If they continue to do that, they are guilty of crimes against humanity and nature.
Even the CEOs of Duke Energy and ExxonMobil have come out in support of a carbon tax. So it's interesting, a quote here from Green, Haywood and Hassett in the American context is, "The irony is that there is a broad consensus in favour of a carbon tax everywhere except on Capitol Hill. The same may almost be said for Australia." Of course, climate change policy should not be based on popularity or consensus, but careful analysis of the benefits and costs of various options and a robust political debate. So what is that debate? The main policy question we're facing is, should we have a tax, a trading system, neither or both? While they're often considered similar and sometimes confused in public commentary, tax and trading are different and differ in important ways. A tax fixes the price of carbon or other emissions and allows the quantity to vary. A trading system fixes the quantity of emissions and allows the price to vary. Now, for a number of reasons, which I'll discuss a bit later, I prefer a tax.
Excelsior!
I'll just take a sidetrack before I come back to my reasons. In 2007, I wrote a monograph called Exploring a Carbon Tax for Australia that suggested a revenue-neutral carbon tax. I looked at options of $15 or $30 per tonne of CO2 or equivalent offset against other tax cuts. Recently, Richard ran across these arguments and gave me a call. Now, Richard and I know each other from a previous life when I used to work down in Canberra. And I think it's fair to say that we come from somewhat different parts of the political spectrum. The researchers from the Australia Institute and the CIS have disagreed on a number of issues before, but on this occasion Richard was calling up to say that he agreed with the carbon tax that I'd been suggesting. While we have somewhat different reasons for preferring a tax over trading, and I like to emphasise that I think it's very important that there are offsetting tax cuts, we both agree that a tax would be better than the current proposed policy, and we both think the government should take another look at some alternative policies. So I'm very happy to have Richard here today. Thanks for coming. And he'll be sharing his views about the CPRS shortly.
You see, there is something out there which threatens our very existence and may be the end to the human race as we know it. I'm talking, of course, about man-bear pig.
Man-bear pig?
Excelsior!